Welcome back to Homeschool and Adventure. I am AJ, a homeschooling mama of 4 wonderful young children aging from 9 to 1, and we are on our 5th year into homeschooling. Some of our friends and a few strangers who eventually became our mom friends have asked us questions about what is the curriculum we are using, what is our provider, how do we homeschool 4 young children, and just anything about homeschooling. So today's video, I'll be sharing to you how do we really homeschool our kids here in the UAE. So homeschooling our kids have not always been the same. We have used and done, different styles, different resources, and I'm just gonna give you a brief history of the first few years or how we really started with homeschooling. We have made a video about this one back then, I think a year ago, but this is like just an update. So for the first 3 years of homeschooling, we were under a provider. So we were under Seton Home Study School. This is a Catholic US-based curriculum, and it uses a traditional style of homeschooling. Now, if we talk about homeschooling, it would probably take me an hour or so because homeschooling is a broad subject, but I'm just going to be sharing to you how we experience homeschooling and what are the styles that we have been doing. So yeah, for the first 3 years, we were under a provider and we used the traditional method. So traditional style of homeschooling is school at home. So there's a structure, there's familiarity, and I think this is a wonderful thing. It's like a touch point for where to begin, especially to those who doesn't really have an idea of homeschooling. We like the idea that there was a structure, there was a school that was guiding us and assisting us because we really didn't have an idea of what homeschooling was. And it was introduced to us by the colleagues of my husband, and they were also homeschooling their kids, and it was a wonderful thing because we knew somebody, or we also know families and kids who were also homeschooling from the same school. During that time, it was just my first son, and so my son is really diligent, hardworking. He always makes sure that he finishes his tasks. And we didn't have a problem with that traditional style. We had books that were provided from the school. There was an online account that you can easily access. They had a chat support that helps me whenever I need to, ask questions about homeschooling. And then there was a grading system. So I was grading my son with his efforts into homeschooling and just doing his works. And then the other 50 is the quarterly exams and the other book reports that he does, and then I just give them a copy of the work that he does, and then they will be the one to verify and grade it. And so it went on for around 3 years. 2 years it was all right. We were just mostly at home and doing those things, and my kid loved it because he loves it because he loves the idea that he's learning and that gets to spend a lot of time with us, and he's at home. On the 3rd year, I found out and I've noticed his interest into reading. And not only reading, he was more into science, and he was already talking about geology, about rocks, about fossils. And then I realized that that was also the time that we started doing adventures. My husband has always been a biking enthusiast, but that was, I think, the only time on the 3rd year of homeschooling that we started tagging along with him, together with, I think we already had 2 more kids. Anyway, and so we had a lot of adventures outside. We started exploring nature. We started using resources that you could find outside. Here in the UAE, there's lots of wonderful places that you could go to, a lot of free places that you could go to, and then we've been doing that, a lot of that during that time. And aside from the interest of my son with science, and it took a toll on my son because there were times that we just had to do a lot of bookworks. He got really tired. Sometimes I get frustrated, and we feel like we were always chasing something that it's always unfinished. And there were times like I wanted him to do the exams, but he's just too tired to do so. That went on for an entire year, and I asked myself, are there any other homeschooling styles that we could try? And that was the only time that we truly started researching about homeschooling. And mind you, that was also the time that I realized that there were a lot of different learning styles and homeschooling styles, and I said to myself, why didn't I do this one on the first year? But anyway, we didn't regret getting Seton Home Study School as our provider, because it allowed us to, really get to know more about homeschooling, get the idea and, transition from the regular school that we know of into homeschooling. And we'll always be grateful to Seton for that. And so during that time, just before we started doing our 4th year of homeschooling, I started researching about wonderful books or curriculums that we can use. And that was also the time that my second son, who was already around 4 years old, was showing interest into, learning. So I decided that we're still going to be getting some of the books from Seton, because at that time we were still a bit undecided, not really sure if we're going to be all out into, doing another style of homeschooling. And so we got some of the books from Seton, and then everything else was from our research. And we also learned about the different homeschooling styles. So there were like classical, eclectic, Montessori, Charlotte Mason, Waldorf, and a lot more of homeschooling styles. But the best one that really struck us was eclectic. It's more of, just using a wide range of styles to best fit your kid. Now, since we love to go outside, we love to go on adventures, and he loves also to, do books, then I think that was the best fit for us, doing eclectic style. And so that was how our 4th year went. We did a lot of adventures outside. We used Seton's books. We used our old books, the books that I got from the Philippines, which was my books when I was back in their age. And we used that one, the old ones. We got new books from the bookshop. We use online resources that are free, and just about anything. And the kids loved our first year of independent homeschooling. My daughter saw how wonderful homeschooling was, and during that time he was just tagging along. We were so relaxed, we were not in a hurry. Having no provider allowed my children to learn at their own pace, and just allow me to assist and guide them into discovering their skills, their talents, and to allow them to just grow independently. And that was the time that I realized that we're going to be all out on our 5th year. And so on this year, on our school year 2020-2021, we used a lot of books from The Good and the Beautiful. They have both language arts, which uses Charlotte Mason style, and then they have also this unit studies wherein I was able to blend my children during science. And that was also the same style that I used with our history and all other subjects that we have. And so they just love every bit of what we are doing right now. The kids really enjoy as much as they are learning, and it's just a wonderful feeling. We have transitioned from traditional into eclectic style, and it is the most wonderful thing that we have done. We use online resources, we use free ones, old books, new books. We use nature, exploring the desert, their wonderful places here, the museums. We use educational toys, board games. We have pointed this one out before in a previous video, how we use Netflix to teach our kids. They love watching movies. My husband and I love watching movies. We also do a lot of arts and crafts, current events. We teach them life skills. I let my children fold their own clothes, clean up their room, teach them how to cook. My husband teaches them how to bike, how to fix their bikes, and just about everything. And so we love every bit of how we are with our homeschooling. And if you're gonna ask us if this is enough, I think this is actually more than enough. We always believe that the world is very big and you can always use it as your classroom, and that is what we are doing right now. Do we have plans to transition back to regular schools? As of now, we are still enjoying every bit of our homeschooling, and as long as the kids are learning and enjoying, then we're gonna continue on homeschooling our kids. The one thing that I do, since we don't have a provider, is I make sure that I keep records of my children's assessment tests or their skills tests, and I have a lesson planner wherein I just write down everything that we do. Yeah, that's how we homeschool our kids here in the UAE. I hope you find this video helpful. If you do find it helpful, please give this one a like, leave us a comment down below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, as well as click that bell so you always get notified whenever we post new videos. That's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I am AJ, and this is Homeschool and Adventure. Bye.